It is no secret that SCHD is my favorite dividend ETF by a mile, but its performance in 2023 left a lot to be desired. SCHD was outperformed by most of its dividend ETF peers last year. In this video, we're going to step back and take an honest look at SCHD to see if it's still worth holding moving forward. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Jeff Teeples, and here we aim to grow your wealth with simple, time-tested solutions. If you enjoy videos like this, please demolish that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop me a comment below with your thoughts about SCHD or anything else. I want to quickly mention that I started a YouTube memberships for the channel. If you would like to show extra support, feel free but not obligated to join the Financial Freedom Friends tier. The membership will include a huge thank you from me, it means a lot, some custom emojis and badges that I've been working on that I think are really cool, as well as a lot of the spreadsheets that I use in these videos and other spreadsheets that I'll be adding in over time as I get them all organized. I'll leave a link in the description below if you're interested. All of the content on this channel will always be free, and I'm here to help you grow your portfolio over the years. I'll only occasionally shout out the memberships as I add new perks as time goes on. Let's grow. The role of SCHD. Let's take it from the top here. I think a nice collection of dividend, growth, and cornerstone ETFs is a good idea for any portfolio. If we only hold dividend ETFs like SCHD, we'll raise our floor to handle those bad years, but we'll also miss out on the compounding returns over many years when we also include some growth ETFs. On the flip side of that, if we only hold growth ETFs, we'll dominate the market in the majority of the years with things like QQQM and VGT, but we could also be left in a lot of pain when the market has a major downturn. The reason we hold things like SCHD is to balance out the risk in our portfolio. It's much like the role of holding bonds in a traditional three-fund portfolio. Now look, SCHD had a rough year, there's no doubt about that. But the overarching point here is that SCHD and other dividend ETFs will underperform most growth ETFs most of the years. We keep them in our portfolio because we need that stable floor when everything comes crashing down. Another reason to hold dividend ETFs, of course, is if you're retired and you're living on the cash flow while enjoying a relatively stable portfolio value. SCHD Performance Update. Let's see how SCHD fared against the competition. And there's a lot of quality dividend ETFs to select from. For this video, I'm going to use DGRO, VIG, and VYM. Let's go. I filtered out SCHD, DGRO, VIG, and VYM on my dividend tracking spreadsheet. And you can see here that the role is dividend for all. I put hybrid for VIG because it has a low yield and it focuses a lot on growth. I wanted to start here so we didn't have to pull up each one of these ETFs and seeking alpha except to compare the total returns. We're going to quickly go through the dividend holy trinity stats of yield, dividend growth rate, and total return. And I'm on my medium length tab here. This is the past 5 years. DGRO doesn't quite have 10 years of history, so I used the 5-year, but it's a pretty good comparison. So if we look at expense ratio, we have SCHD, VYM, and VIG tied at the top spot, and DGRO is basically the same, 2 basis points higher. So they're all low cost, passively managed, amazing ETFs. On the dividend yield, we have SCHD with a big lead at 3.45% versus 2.44 of VYM. DGRO is right there, basically tied at 2.4, and then VIG trails at 1.4%. On the 5-year dividend growth rate, the dividend CAGR, we have SCHD leading the way at 13%, DGRO right there at 10.2, and then way down we have VIG at 3.63%, and VYM is basically flat on the dividend over the last 5 years. And then the total return, we're going to view this in Seeking Alpha. This data right here might be a day or two lagged, so they might be slightly different. But taking a quick look at the 5-year total return, this data is all pulled directly from a Seeking Alpha screener. We have VIG in the lead at 84.5%. SCHD is second at 83%. DGRO is third at 76%, and then you have VYM way down there at 60%. So SCHD smashes the competition in everything except for 5-year total return. It's a close second. I pulled up SCHD on Seeking Alpha, and I want to just take a real quick look at some high-level things about SCHD before diving into our comparison to the other great dividend ETFs. So the first thing I like to look at is the holdings breakdown. And you can see SCHD is a very well-balanced fund, and particularly with technology being a fairly low 12.6% of the fund, its fourth largest sector. And you can see it has a nice chunk of healthcare, industrials, financials, and consumer defensive as well, along with some consumer cyclical and energy over here on the other side. The top 10 holdings of SCHD are well-known dividend-paying stocks. I won't read them all out, but you can see them down the side here. And I like that SCHD makes it to where each one of these holdings can't be too large of a percentage of the fund. It keeps them to 4% on the rebalancing process, and then they'll creep above, as you can see here, throughout the quarter. But in general, nothing will ever get over 5, and usually they like to keep them at 4 or less. And the top 10 companies make up 42%, and there are 100 companies, 104 holdings total. And the dividend scorecard, we just covered this on the spreadsheet, and again, these are slightly different. It's 2 days later. The yield is at 3.48. The 5-year growth is a fantastic 13% and has grown its dividends each year it's existed for 12 years. But I like to take a look up here just to make sure the 3-year dividend at 9% and the 10-year dividend at 11% are both solid, which they are. So you have 9, 13, and 11%. Because sometimes one outlier year can make a specific one, such as the 5-year CAGR, out of whack. But as you can see here, 9.4 is the lowest it's been over those last time intervals. Okay, and now the reason we're all here, let's check out the total return comparisons of SCHD versus the competition. You can see here I have SCHD, DGRO, VIG, and VYM. And we are currently on the 1-year performance, and this is where SCHD has lagged its peers by quite a bit. SCHD is up 2.9% over the last year. DGRO is up 9.4%, which makes it second place. VIG is up an incredible 13.6%. Of course, it's high in technology, so it has a lot of overlap with the growth funds. And VYM, another high dividend stock like SCHD, is 5.5%. Over the last 3 years, you have SCHD trailing its peers by a little bit, 26.5% to DGRO's 28, VIG's 28.5, and VYM's 29.2. So they're all pretty close there, but SCHD is lagging the field. In the last 5 years, SCHD comes in at 79.4%. It's ahead of DGRO on this one. DGR is at 73.4. VIG is still the king at 81.1. And VYM's coming in the caboose here at 57.8. Zooming out 10 years, SCHD is up 191.5. DGRO doesn't quite have 10 years, by the way, but it's 172.5 in its whole history. VIG is right behind SCHD at 187.6. And VYM is trailing the field once again at 150. I think the SCHD is a better buy now than it has been over most of the last couple years. And I say that because on a relative basis, it has underperformed many of its peers, but I think it's a good, proven long-term holding. So in other words, on a relative basis, you're buying the dip. And objectively speaking, with no bias here, it is still the best dividend ETF for the Holy Trinity. It has an amazing combination of dividend yield, dividend growth rate, and total return. Pairing SCHD with quality growth ETFs makes it even more powerful. SCHD plus growth equals wealth. I don't want to sound like a broken record in every video, but it is impossible for me to explain the long-term value of SCHD without it. 50% SCHD plus 50% VGT has outperformed both VU and VTI every year over the last 10 years. And there's hardly any overlap with these two ETFs. We're talking Kobe and Shaq here. The combo is unstoppable. And of course, as always, past performance doesn't guarantee future results, but the probability of success is wildly increased because we're talking about passively managed, low-cost ETFs with solid methodology. So for example, if my hand-picked basket of stocks, say I ran with 10 stocks, outperformed the market for each of the last 10 years, on the 11th year, you're still looking at a coin flip because you just never know what's gonna happen in the future. But when everything we're pulling in, including the competition, VU and VTI, are fully passively managed, it makes it a little more legit. Still not guaranteed, but it's not like we're getting crazy here. And I've had countless people ask me why hold SCHD at all. Just go full in on VGT because I'm giving up these compound returns, when we look in hindsight at past performance. And to that I say, it's true. Overall, when we look back, and I think when we look forward, because I believe in tech, VGT likely will outperform VU and SCHD. But you never know when the next 2022 is going to hit. VGT lost 30% of its value. I don't want to go from $1 million to 700,000. But in that same year, the market, VU, was down about 20%, and SCHD was close to flat on total returns. So when you add VGT and SCHD together, SCHD's floor actually raised it above the market. Unlike the typical year, where SCHD is lagging somewhere down here, but VGT pulls it up. Basically, I like sleeping well at night. I love dividend stocks. I won't pick an individual company without them paying a dividend. And I just would rather have the balance and consistency of a quality mix than to just roll growth, especially in my 40s. If I was 20, you might convince me who cares if it drops 50%. And you'd probably be right, just keep on pounding in money and buy at a discount at that point. But I think we all have different risk tolerances and goals ultimately, and I'm a bit more on the conservative side. But I still like to roll the dice compared to things like the traditional 3-fund portfolio, because when I beat the market by 2 or 3% over those 10 years, it has made a difference that is well into the 6 figures. So I think there's always going to be a balancing act. There are many great combinations of ETFs you can roll with. The most important thing is to stay patient, open-minded, and up to date with your strategy. Also, stay the course, especially when the market takes a dive. Be a buyer only during all markets, and you'll be a winner at this game long term. Patience is more important than intelligence when it comes to investing, and it's not even close. Check out one of these 2 videos if you want to hear me babble on about more personal finance. I really appreciate you being here until the bitter end. Thank you for watching, and I will see you here each and every Thursday, and usually on a Sunday. Peace.